everyone. Dr. Drew.
Hey there. Looking at your restream. Let's come on in.
Aaron's first.
Aaron, I don't know anybody yet on my picture. Give it a second here. Oh, yep.
First in on YouTube is 808.
808. Aaron is second.
She was first on Facebook.
Ah, I see.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, so going to
Ireland. Somebody from Ireland.
I know, we've had the Ireland folks in here periodically.
Very cool.
So as we've crossed the million positive mark here in the United States with 55,000 deaths from this thing, it's the tail end, though. If you look at the graphs, you can really see how this thing is going away. We are, if you look at, I was just looking at Georgia, I'll tell you about that in a minute, but if I look at the United States, we are on track for about 70,000 deaths, but we are going to be at just a couple hundred by June 1st. And now we are at about 36,000 hospitalized. Is that what this is? As compared to at our peak, 60,000. So we are on the backside of this whole thing. And it seems like people are getting out of the hospital faster. New York particularly, if you look at the New York graphs, they're really coming down quickly. I mean, their peak was hospitalized at also 19,000, and now they are at 4,000. So let me cross-reference that with the COVID tracking project. If you guys give me a second to go over there, and then I will get to your questions as soon as possible. In New York, I heard we were watching the Governor Cuomo's thing this morning, and there was a little tick up, but there was an improvement in getting people out of the hospital. So that was good. New Jersey is still pretty active.
It was a tick up by 1.
Yeah, it didn't go in the right direction is the important thing. And let me get New York. Yeah, so hospitalized currently 12,000 as compared to, what did I say? As compared to, on my graph, oh, shoot. Computer screws up. On my graph, we are at 13,000. So they are 1,000. They're 1,000 below actually what was predicted by the. Wait a minute. I'm at 4,200 here, and what am I in the COVID tracking? 12,000. That doesn't seem right. Is that the? Oh, it's currently hospitalized 12,000.
Where's that?
In the state of New York. Versus on my graph here, when I go to that, it says they are 4,000. So I am a little confused by that. Interesting. So there may be some incongruity in some of this data here. Let me go to your restream and see what you guys are thinking about. When Scott Adams made this pandemic bearable with facts and sanity. Thank you very much.
You and Scott Adams.
Me and Scott Adams. I appreciate that.
Smile.
Anything that I'm associated with Scott Adams, I'm happy with because he calms me down too. It is, so I had an opportunity to interview Dr. Erickson yesterday, that ER doctor who was in that viral video. And I'm really sympathetic to his point of view, that he really is trying to make people feel better, that there's so few cases where he is, so few deaths. And so, and he was doing testing. Apparently he said the reason he did that video at all was local news agencies were asking him what was his raw data on testing at the urgent care center. He was testing everybody that came in. And that's what prompted him to report this. And they were showing very low levels of illness, or low levels of hospitalization, low levels of death. And that's fine. That's good. That's and I'm thinking, and it does seem to me consistent with the idea that each region should be making their own decisions about what they do. I don't know if you noticed, Orange County in Los Angeles is opening their beaches and opening their businesses. San Francisco is doing something very similar. So I saw some tweets from London Breed this afternoon, who is the mayor of San Francisco, who was saying that she wants any outdoor businesses she's looking at the science. The science says there's been no outdoor transmission. Good for London Breed. She's always been a rational person, and she is allowing outdoor businesses to open up first. Makes perfect sense. When we talk about following the science, that follows the science. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't social distance, you shouldn't wear masks, that kind of thing. Of course you should. Of course you should. Somebody's asking about remdesivir. So the data is looking good on remdesivir. I'm going to talk to Dr. Oz about that tonight on my Fox 11 program, 7 o'clock here in Los Angeles on what's called Fox 11. That's not Fox News. It's a Fox local channel. You think Family Guy or Simpsons. It's that kind of Fox.
Also on Facebook.com/Dr.Drew or at Fox LA's Facebook page.
And Valverde Arts is asking. I did not talk to him outside the interview. I thought he held his own too, but I thought some of the logic was just kind of off. Unfortunately, I admire his position. I admire that he's trying to make people feel good and make it look like it's make us feel like
strong.
Yeah, that there's a high probability of us getting out of this quick. Maybe we overreacted by shutting it down so much. That's something that'll be argued and debated forever. But we are going to be open in a couple of weeks. Natalie, remdesivir for bad cases only? I don't know. I'm going to talk to Dr. Oz about that tonight, as I said. I have not had good results with remdesivir.
Yay, Dr. Oz.
I have not had good results with remdesivir. I'll ask him about the blood types.
Did you see the question about the guy who owns a small cleaning company? He's asking if he should be able to go in and clean people's homes again.
That sounds a little bit, I don't know. Because remember, you're coming in as somebody who's contacted things on the outside. I imagine if you have proper personal protective equipment, you could do that. But again, what should that be is open for question.
If you're not sick.
If you're not sick and let's say you're only cleaning 3 or 4 different houses, and that's all you do are those 4 in some sort of rotation.
And they're not sick.
And they're not sick, and they're properly quarantined or whatever, and they're not older folk, then that makes sense to me. That makes sense. How does high cholesterol affect COVID? Lissa wants to know. Kate Shanahan and I, she's a famous lipid specialist, went through a whole thing about that. Was that day before yesterday, Susan?
Yes.
Can they get that on Facebook or on the website?
It's on all the same channels they're on.
Yeah.
It was 2 days ago.
So look at the conversation we had 2 days ago. Is hydroxychloroquine still promising? I'm about to read an article that's questioning whether it's risky to take it or not. I think I've seen some benefit with it. I think, but again, the data is still not in on that. So the lipids issues, it's the metabolic syndrome. It's overweight, it's central obesity, it's insulin resistance. That may actually be more important than the cholesterol. She was making the point that low HDL high triglycerides were a very big piece of this, and that the pro-inflammatory seed oils, corn oil, canola oil, safflower oil, sunflower oil, these seed oils are pro-inflammatory, and she thinks that may be contributing to this problem, creating the metabolic syndrome.
Which is pretty much in everything you eat.
Yeah.
I was looking at the market today.
Yeah.
Ice cream, cookies, everything. Everything's got it. They might even start out with some kind of coconut oil, but then at the bottom it'll say canola. Yeah.
And so somebody's asking me, am I still on the keto diet? Because of that conversation with Kate Shanahan, I just said, screw it, I'm eating vegetables and beef. That's it. Because she convinced me that there was seed oil in everything. I have metabolic syndrome, so I'm hypercholesterolemic, I'm hypertensive, I have some degree of insulin resistance, and avoiding carbohydrates for me has helped a great, great, great deal.
So get her book, The Fat Burn Fix.
Fat Burn Fix.
And also go to her website for more information.
Deep nutrition is the other thing she did. Mm-hmm. A lot of reports saying that COVID data is being inflated by the CDC. Yeah, it's not the CDC or the WHO. It is physicians. It's us signing people out. The way we sign death certificates is a very nefarious process. We don't get to describe what happened. There's a bunch of rules that, everybody ends up dying essentially of cardiovascular arrest. Guess what? When you die, your heart stops, your lungs stop. That doesn't mean you died of heart disease. It doesn't mean you died of COVID. It's very complicated what they allow us to do. And dying with COVID, in other words, you had COVID and let's say you had a stroke and you die of the stroke, that goes down as a COVID death. We can argue whether that's appropriate or not. I don't actually object to that as long as we're clear and transparent that that's what we're doing. Will our immune systems weaken because of the lockdown? I don't think so. I really don't think so. Although some people are saying that. I don't think it's, I think the development of the immune system is something that happens early in life. And that's something more about what happens from 0 to 5 than what happens from 40 to 50. Why no chicken or fish? I could eat chicken and fish. I could do that. I do that. Beef, for whatever reason, I just feel better. I don't know how to explain it. Isn't the CDC providing guidance that restricts what doctors can report for COVID? No, it's your local county. Coroner that does that. So it's all done locally. So again, it's going to be a patchwork of what goes out as COVID. And then they have guidelines, I'm imagining, are set by some sort of national or state agency, not even federal agency. We're afraid for the fall. I understand that. I think in this state, there's a plan to maybe send kids to school early in the summer, which I think is smart, so they can get some school in.
At least here.
Get some school in. Get some school in California before anything does hit in the fall. But look, there's a possibility that we will learn to manage this thing. That we have 4 months to get good at following it, tracking it, checking contacts, and if we get good at that, the fall will be okay. So it can get away from us, certainly could, but the fall could be okay. Your local coroner looks like Lurch. That's fantastic. Lurch had gigantism. He actually had a pituitary problem.
Your local what?
His local coroner says it looks like the Butler from Addams Family, which would be.
So I found the chart that's on Kate's
Lurch.
website. It's I'm going to put it up. The good fats, the okay but not great fats, and the bad fats. They're all on her website, drkate.com. So one of my favorite Twitter followers showed me this. So.
Randy, great question about Dr. Oz and lupus. I will ask him that tonight, whether he ever found anybody that got COVID who was on Plaquenil because of lupus. I know he was looking for that. What do I think of the Oxford vaccine, supposedly ready in the fall? I don't know what to think of that, but I am hearing about these accelerated vaccines that might be ready for certain populations in the fall. So I'm very enthusiastic that should happen. So far, there have been no magic bullets. You know what I mean? There's been no cavalry that has come out. The thing has just run its course, and we have all worked hard to keep it from spreading. And Dr. Fauci announcing the remdesivir. Yeah, I mean, Fauci would not have comment on the remdesivir unless there were good studies with good outcomes. So that, to me, the fact that he touted, it's the first time he's touted any treatment. That means he feels the studies were legit, they were well done, they're well analyzed, and it does suggest in some fashion this drug is of benefit. Now, we've heard that a lot, that there have been anecdotes of people using it to benefit. I have seen it not work. So my thinking is that they may be using it too late. Maybe it needs to be used early. So I'm curious when they did that in the study. In other words, was the study of people who were in extreme situations, or was it early in the course of the illness? If it's early in the course, then everybody should be getting it. So, yeah, I just missed Kevin and Bean, Chris. What about lupus and Plaquenil? So Dr. Oz asked for anyone with lupus who was taking Plaquenil if they had come down with COVID-19. He was looking for any cases because everyone out there with lupus on Plaquenil did not get it. And so one of the theories was, maybe they're not getting it because of the Plaquenil. So we don't know yet. He has an interest in remdesivir. I don't know if that's true or not. You mean he owns Gilead stock or something? That's interesting, if that's true. The currently available flu shot, I mean, it's late, but I mean, your doctor might give it to you. After March, it gets a little crazy to be taking it, but and our flu season has essentially passed. We had somewhere around 35 million cases, killed about 40,000 Americans. And that was one of the things that Dr. Erickson kept pointing out to me last night. I kept saying, look, it's not the flu, COVID-19. If you've ever seen COVID-19, when it really goes, it is a different illness. And he said, well, we have people in our ICU with flu, which I'm sure he does. And that's something that everyone needs to be reminded of, that the flu is a serious illness. It can be prevented with vaccine. And it's not a lot different. When it kills, it's not a lot different than this thing, right? Now, the COVID-19 coronavirus kills at about 5 times the rate, let's say, just for the sake of argument. It's 3 to 5 to even maybe 10 times, but let's say 5 times the rate. When it does, it's a maelstrom. It's just a complete out of control wildfire. And even with influenza, when people get sick, we can kind of do stuff to try to help them. This is like a massive septicemia with shutdown of all organs. Yeah, it's really something else.
Did you see the Yadegar question?
Yadegar. What was that?
Have you heard of Dr. Yadegar, who hasn't had a patient yet, hasn't lost a patient yet, according to an article online?
So you can hear Dr. Yadegar on this show and also on the Dr. Drew podcast. I interviewed him at length. I think it was up last week.
Yes. On drdrew.com.
Yeah, and we also did a stream with him. You can find that perhaps. I don't remember when that was. He's on to something. He has gotten very good at treating the cytokine storm. And so, again, he seems very skilled.
And he was on here too.
Mm-hmm.
He sounds very knowledgeable.
Well, he seems to have a skill for applying some of the anti-inflammatory medicines and the antivirals. He has criteria he uses, and again, I've seen other doctors doing something similar, and it wasn't good outcomes. Dr. Yadegar did a great job, and we appreciate him coming on these shows and explaining what he's doing. I did an in-depth interview with him for the Dr. Drew podcast because I was preparing to go to New York. I had thought I'd signed up for Governor Cuomo's sort of health corps, the workforce, to go work in the ICUs and stuff. And I was in there, picking his brain to make sure I was up on what can be done for these people once I get in there. Somebody's asking who is tweeting for me. Would that be you?
When?
I don't know. French doctor discovering HIV. No, I don't know about that. All right, somebody's asking about Florida. So let's go look at the data on Florida. Again, I will urge you to watch Georgia, because Georgia is going to tell us something. It's going to tell us whether or not social distancing and masks are sufficient or the same as quarantine. So we don't know that quarantine does something above and beyond social distancing and mask wearing. It might. It makes sort of intuitive sense that it would, but we don't know that, especially given that the virus doesn't transmit outdoors. If you're outside, it really doesn't like sunlight. And particularly as summer comes on, having us all shelter in place may be a not so great strategy, or at least may not be any better than being outside with masks and gloves and things. So Florida, the only thing with Florida is you've got very few cases relative to other states, but the outbreak is sort of protracted. It's sort of protracted. For a state your size, you do not have much going on. You only have 13 deaths, and then 20, and then 13 deaths in the last 3 days. There's not a lot going on in Florida. So having stayed open as long as you did does not seem to have had a significant effect. However, Georgia picked exactly the wrong moment to open up. They were at the sort of the crest. They also have a kind of a protracted course, but they were really building in terms of numbers of hospitalizations and deaths per day, although they're still rather low. If quarantine is no significant benefit above social distancing and masks, we should see these Georgia numbers continue to fall. If it's a problem where obviously it creates more outbreak, you will see it tick up. And we could learn something about this for the so-called second wave. In other words, theoretically, we could then prevent the second wave of this thing if we are practicing cautious, diligent social distancing. All right, I'm looking back at your restream. We're going to talk to Duncan Trussell on Friday. I don't know if you're listening, if you're a Joe Rogan fan, but he just did a 3.5-hour interview with Joe Rogan. It took me four attempts to get through it. Chicago, I heard, is having trouble. Let me look at Illinois. Somebody actually said they're looking for physicians outside of the area. Illinois, here we go. It doesn't look that bad if you look at, no, it looks kind of good, actually, if you look at the numbers for the state overall. You're certainly meeting your demands in terms of available hospital resources and that sort of thing. The death rate is falling, and falling rather dramatically. It's significantly less than New York. So I don't know. I mean, you may be having some little regional small outbreaks here and there that look bad because of whatever the hospital resources are in that area. But overall, Illinois looks pretty darn good. Utah, well, let me cross-reference it with that other data I had, because remember I was telling you that there did seem to be some problem with the New York data, at least. So here's Illinois. 50,000 positive, 700 on ventilator, 5,000 hospitalized, 2,000 death. So 5,000 700 ventilator. Look at that. That seems a little higher than what I was seeing here. Give me a second. Yeah, this seems higher than what the University of Washington is putting out. So there's some sort of data difference between the COVID tracking project and the University of Washington, who has been so good and so accurate in predicting how this thing's playing out. I think I would put my bet on the University of Washington, since they've been so diligent about this. I don't know what is up with the COVID tracking project. Maybe I'm looking at cumulative data rather than daily data, something like that. Okay, and then going back to your restream, if I can find it. There we go.
Joshua's being cheeky today.
Okay. Yeah, when should we know the numbers from Georgia from prematurely opening? It should be pretty quick, like within a week. Again, that should happen rather quickly. Certainly positives should go up, positive testing. Only about 50% of people are wearing masks in Michigan. Okay, are they social distancing though? Because that was the main recommendation from the CDC. Remember, the CDC never said, that I'm aware of, said lockdown. They never said that. That was the governors that did that on their own. And, I knew that would work. But it's something that may have been excessive. We'll see. Somebody's asking, UV light helps. Yes, UV light does help. It helps both on the outside, if you're living, and sunlight particularly is effective. I know that here in Los Angeles, I've heard that Cedars-Sinai is doing a test on getting UV light into the lungs to see if that makes a difference in the viral replication. So, of course, nobody can talk about that, because injecting what do you call it?
Sanitation.
What was the word he used? A desensitize, whatever it was. Injecting something that kills viruses into your lungs, it magically becomes like some sort of horrible, weird news cycle.
So I have a theory.
Yeah.
Somebody asked on Twitter, why haven't more homeless people died as we predicted would? And then I was thinking maybe it's because they're outside.
Yes, that's one of the theories, right? So my point was, here in Los Angeles, the local city and the county is excoriating people for going outside in a park or being in a beach. How dare they go to Orange County? Yet homeless are allowed to congregate and do drugs out by many, many hundreds out in the streets. So which is it? Are we allowed to congregate or not? And your point is well taken, that it might be the out of doors that is preventing them from getting sick. So I don't understand why the average citizen can't practice social distancing and go to the beach if it's disinfectant was the word. Thank you.
Who was the guy that interviewed the homeless on the street, and they were like, they didn't even know what it was. They had no clue.
It was Gianni. I forget his last name.
And they were all like, what virus?
Well, they knew there was something going on, and they needed to wear a mask because they were required to wear a mask.
But they do have some that have been infected inside in the Union Rescue Mission.
Yes, there was an outbreak, but most of them were asymptomatic.
But they had to kick all the healthy people out. He was very upset about that. But that's probably good.
Yeah, asymptomatic.
I mean, maybe half of them have already had it and they didn't even know. Right?
I'm not sure I understand your statement.
I mean, maybe some of them had it.
They were asymptomatic and did not know they had it. The majority. Asymptomatic, meaning they had no symptoms. Got it?
Mm-hmm.
So that means they did not know they had it. And that may be happening on the streets as well. But again, there should be social distancing because a lot of them are asymptomatic, and so there could be some transmission even out of doors. So it's another good point. There are a lot of older homeless people. You'd be surprised. A lot.
Yeah.
People have lived on the streets a long time because this state does nothing about it. Does the outside thing only work in warm weather? I don't know the answer to that because I know the virus also hates heat and humidity, but I think it's specifically sunlight. Direct sunlight is what improves things. Yes, with a vaccine, we'll be all done. You can go outside and do anything. You'll be immune at that point. That's what a vaccine does. It prevents that virus from infecting you. COVID is caused by the indoors. Well, there's something to that. That the primary transmission was in elevators and homes, and and being around people for long periods of time with the illness. Yes, that's true.
Well, the plague was spread by everybody staying indoors.
That's true. That's a little different. That was rat droppings and fleas and things. A little different. But yeah, so they were doing some studies apparently at Cedars-Sinai about going down with UV light and seeing if that would disinfect. That would not be the right word. It would see if that would reduce the viral replication in the lungs and thereby reduce the inflammation. I don't know. Let me look it up, see if there's been any.
Somebody said maybe homeless people have a higher level of vitamin D.
No, maybe they are hardier from having lived on the streets so long.
They have the Adam Carolla sewer rat situation going on.
UV light catheter for COVID-19 from Cedars-Sinai. So UV light is a long-standing record used as antimicrobial. Let's see, in the months, UV into the body. COVID-19 struck MAST like many researchers and companies. They worked night and day since the beginning of the pandemic. Okay. The goal is to obtain emergency use from the FDA to begin treating COVID patients, starting on mechanical ventilators. The only data on the device technology, which is based in UVA light, is known as headlight and has been in cellular and animal models. So they are trying to get through. I thought I'd heard about this. So this is an article called bioworld.com, UV light respiratory catheter for COVID-19 from Cedars-Sinai seeking emergency use. So there it is. And a so-called disinfectant UV light is being tried at Cedars-Sinai. I thought I heard that.
Interesting.
Okay. California numbers are way off. 2,300 dead by August, already over 1,800 with 1,800 ICU. I don't know what that means. We're way over those numbers, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Maybe homeless? No.
Maybe. I don't quite know what that is. Had a heart attack on January 13th. Follow-up said all my numbers were amazing. Any concern with meds following stents? Depends what meds you're on, Daniel. I'm assuming you are on the usual slurry of statin, antiplatelet, some sort of like a beta blocker, like Coreg, something like that, and some sort of ACE inhibitor or ARB. And those are all good medicines. People live a lot longer on those things.
What is a sinus biome transplant?
I do not know.
Somebody's making fun of. He called it a snot.
He said it's fecal transplant for the nose.
I walked right into that one.
Yes, you did. Google it.
That's got to be your mom's house person.
Probably. Do I think the virus has changed? No, I do not. One thing about the coronavirus is it is quite stable. Quite stable. Yeah, they've been using UV lights for years on water filters. That's true. That's very true. Seasonal allergy considered an immune deficiency? No, I would say not. Not unless you have severe asthma with it. But even then, asthma has been taken off the list of risk factors for COVID. Nicotine being somewhat protective. I've seen that data. I don't know what to make of it. I really don't. I'm wondering if the nicotine, more than anything, causes people to suppress their appetite and they lose weight. And by losing weight, you end up at lower risk from this virus. Clearly, obesity is a major risk factor.
Riverside orders masks and quarantine till 6:15.
What's the best way to realize you're at risk for a heart attack before you have one? Are there warning signs? Lots of them. So here's the deal. Family history, hypertension, hypercholesterolemia, insulin resistance or diabetes. You need to go get those things evaluated and treated. And if you treat those things early, you can reduce your risk. Then you should be screened in some sort of ongoing way. Calcium score is one simple way to do it, a coronary calcium score. Or get up on a treadmill and get a treadmill test done if you're older and too much time has gone by where you haven't treated all these things. And obviously no smoking also. Yes, the nicotine is not from smoking in the COVID experiments. Do I think? No, I don't think Biden is having dementia. I do not think that. What is the cutoff for hypertension? We really want you to be, well, the lower the better these days. That's sort of the way we're going about it. But 120 over 80, even 120 over 70, maybe 110 over 70, some doctors might say. But I let my patients come in at 120 over 80. Meat processing plants closure. Yeah, that's concerning, right? But the federal government has apparently mandated they stay open. I don't know how they're going to do that. And I don't know. You can make sure you have adequate meat if you're concerned about that. Freeze it. Get ready. Check on Pennsylvania. Okay, I will do that. So let me first check the COVID tracking again, where there's been this funny difference. Pennsylvania. Okay, 44,000 positive, 2,100 dead, 2,700 hospitalized. Okay, I think it's going to be pretty good in Pennsylvania. Give me a second. Okay, so yeah, Pennsylvania is looking very good. You've had your peak. The peak was something like 13 days ago. You peaked at about 3,800 hospitalized beds, and right now you're at about 1,500 or so. Let's see, does that fit with what I just saw? Yeah, I don't know. This COVID tracking has different numbers, but not that far different in Pennsylvania. So generally speaking, your hospitalization rate is way down. The daily death rate is falling dramatically and rapidly. You peaked on that one 8 days ago. The highest number of deaths per day was about 266. 2 days ago, you were 23. So that has fallen. I'm hoping that's a reflection of the doctors doing a better job with this illness.
Hey, your troll curve is pretty much flattened out today. I'm very, very happy.
We're happy that you're having not to block people.
No, it's great.
Let's see. Again, Maryland, 40%, 46% of COVID. Yes. Okay. So Baltimore guy, in Maryland, 46% of cases were in nursing homes. Same thing is true in California. Something like 60% of cases are nursing home and nursing home staff. So I would just, whenever I see that, it reminds me that we need to be having very serious conversations with people as they age about what their wishes are. The medical system needs to represent the wishes of people as they age. If they're in a nursing home, there should be a lot of conversation about, if you get pneumonia, do you want to go to the hospital? If you need a ventilator, do you want a ventilator? Do you need tube feeding? What if things look bad? How far do you want to go before you press on? Because if you're 85 years old or older and you're on a ventilator for any period of time at all, your probability of living a year is very low after that. Do you want to be put through that misery? I, for instance, hey, Susan, listen carefully. I don't want to ever live in a nursing home. I don't ever want to be in a nursing home. And if I am so debilitated that I need institutional support, well, I'm hoping we have some sort of, way of dealing. Get the gun? Whatever, some way of dealing with that. So talk to, maybe some people in your life feel like me. So and other people may feel like they want the care.
So wait, what happens
if I need institutional support? If I need two people to lift me up,
take care of you.
I didn't say that, because if I get sick at all, we've just exceeded that point. So what I'm saying is, and I'm right.
So basically, bring a nurse to the house.
I'm not saying that.
Stuff.
No, well, I'm saying is experience. For me, if I need institutional support, somebody to feed me, somebody to lift me, somebody to deal with diapers and stuff like that, that's it. Don't do it. Don't put me in a nursing home. Figure out something.
Well, somebody's got to do that. It's not going to be me.
Well,
you're big.
No, you're missing my point.
I mean,
I don't want to be here anymore if I get to that point. Do you understand me?
I see. Okay. So basically,
let it go. Don't treat. Get hospice involved. Do something. But that is me. And people should be talking about things like that with their loved ones.
You're talking about when it's really at the end.
When you need if you need two people to lift me and I can't hold, no. So I don't want to be a burden. I don't want to be a burden on people at that point. And there are lots of people that feel that way. And by the way, going in a nursing home, it has its own risk, as you guys are all finding out. Things like
we had this discussion with Dr. Kate too. That first episode.
Yes, and people were very upset about that.
I know, but go back to that episode if you want to see. It's more of a medical doctor conversation about it, not my personal opinion.
But I'm giving you, I worry if I get sick, your ability to, we've exceeded your caretaking capacity very quickly. But I'm not saying that. I'm saying if I am irreversibly, institutionally dependent, think about that, everybody. Think about whether you want that or not. Do you want that, Susan?
Well, a lot of people just don't want to let go.
Well, but I know, and then they should get They should get that care. If that's what they want, they should get it.
Well,
I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying I've seen it. I wouldn't want it It's not something I would wish for.
I don't think you die eternally.
What do you want?
I don't have a problem
What
with
would you like?
Same thing. I
So
don't
you
want
don't want
my
nursing
family
home.
to sit around me worrying about it. I want them to live, and I know
It's
I'll
not
be in a better
that.
place.
I don't mind. We don't mind doing that. It's more, do you want to be an institutional setting in order to get from one day to the
If
next?
you don't want to deal with me, I don't have
No,
a
that
problem with
wasn't.
it.
That wasn't. That's not what I'm asking. That's not
No,
what I'm
I
asking.
don't know. I'll be
People are asking
brain
us
dead
to
at
stop
that point.
talking about this. They're saying, please enough. So we will
No.
stop. We will
I
stop.
don't know.
But I urge you all to think about these things. We don't think about end of life. Your life should be ended with the same dignity that it was lived.
Exactly.
And whatever that is and whatever that means to you, that's how you should make it clear, hopefully in writing, to somebody, and particularly your doctors. Violence during the quarantine. I'm hearing that there's a little bit more, that police are not policing in certain areas the way they're probably afraid too. Yes, remdesivir is showing. Thank you, Christine. Remdesivir is showing potential, and we will. I'm going to talk to Dr. Oz about it tonight on Fox 11. You just saw her comment.
What does it say? Sorry.
Amy thinks it was a good conversation. I brought it up just because I think this whole pandemic thing really made me think
Somebody
that.
says, "I love you, and I'll wipe your ass for you."
Yeah.
I don't know if you know me that well.
It's an important conversation, but I think I don't want to go Terry Schiavo. Thank you, Jason. I just think this epidemic is a chance to think about these things. I mean, all those people in nursing homes suffering. Did you even want to be in a nursing home? Is that what you wanted? And then going on a ventilator without you having thought about it or given written instructions to anybody. Do you really want that? 85, no chance that you'll be able to do that to me, even if I'm vital. If let's say I'm living the same vital life I'm living now at 85, and all of a sudden I need a ventilator, no thank you, because that means I'm getting to the point where the next year is going to be very, very dreadful. So that's just the way it works. It's just the way it works.
I actually would wipe your ass. I can't smell poop.
Norman Somerton might take care of me, pee-pee glider. Yes, indeed. Thank you for that.
Pee-pee platter.
Okay. You want to laugh a little bit? What should we? Did somebody have anything humorous to give us, to offer us?
Oh, that was funny.
Well, that wasn't that funny, but hopefully somebody does have something funny to
Let's
offer
just
us.
put it in writing, because by the time I'm that age, I'll forget it.
For majority of the nation, do you think things will be lifted so that some of yes, I do think we're heading towards normalcy within a couple of weeks. Not normalcy. We're heading towards getting outdoors in a couple of weeks. And I think in some states we will have oh my goodness, they're going down the wiping the ass path. Very, very. This is our restream group. I do think in a couple weeks you'll be outdoor at restaurants. I think you'll be outdoor at businesses. I think retail will open more. I need to get to an Apple store, so I'm anxious that the Apple store should open up. So we'll see. I think we're getting into it. Let's see. Minnesota. You want to see what Minnesota is? Minnesota's been doing quite good all along. Let me get their data. The whole country is doing good right now, right? I mean, New Jersey's struggling a little bit, and we're going to see what Georgia does. Minnesota's a little protracted. I don't know why your stuff is so drawn out, but it looks a lot like California. It's just a week or two later, and the actual numbers are pretty low. I mean, like 600 beds. I mean, this is very low, 728. But the graph itself, the time course of the graph looks a lot like California. I would think Minnesota will be out end of May, no problem. So it's no longer the fog of war, right? The fog of war at the beginning was, where are we? How long is this going to last? How bad is it going to get? We didn't know. Now we're on the other side of this. You can see where it's going. You can see we're getting out. You can see things are going okay. You've got some experiments going there in Tennessee and Georgia and maybe Florida, and we can, look at what the outcomes are there. New Zealand and Australia are at single digits, maybe because it was summer there. What about that? Dr. Erickson, I did a lot on that a few minutes ago. Sorry, you're just getting here. What are the chances of COVID getting worse in the fall? Very high, but there's also a probability that we will be good at containment and identifying and following and getting contacts of anybody with this illness. So I'm hoping that we will get good across the summer of tracking this thing and stay with it through the fall. And maybe if we have some vaccine therapies for some risk groups, it could really help. New Jersey is like New York, Johanna, because it just got out of control there. It got away. And I think it's the concentrated environment. It's coming to New York City. You guys all come to the Manhattan and you interact there where there was so much virus. I don't know how I missed it. I was literally riding the subways, 5 days before the lockdown, right, Susan? Wasn't that about right?
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
Weren't we in New York like 5 days before they locked down?
We came back on the 11th.
The 11th. What day did you guys lock down?
Like it was around the 15th, I think, right?
So, yeah, 4 or 5 days later. And I was riding the subways and elevators and everything else.
Talking about it.
Yeah, and back then. So it was very weird. Glad I didn't get it. Maybe we did.
You know what we need at the market?
What's that?
We need like warm-up comedians at the front door with the hand sanitizer, getting everybody in a good mood to be out and shopping and be happy that they have food in the market. And
I noticed Mark Norman before the lockdown was doing comedy out on the streets.
Like they should have like a warm-up. Yeah. So and then just have like a guy playing a guitar in the back or something. I mean, it's like so sad. Nobody will look each other in the eye or say hello or say excuse me. Everybody's like afraid to even look at each other or talk. It's weird.
So, Christina, you're asking
place.
about Sylvia Brown's prediction about this virus coming from...
I know, that was awesome.
And she said it would disappear as fast as it appeared. We will see. I've heard that rumor. We will see.
Yeah, I need to talk to my psychics about that. I wanted to wait.
Yeah, Howard Gym's going to open. That's a really interesting question. Hey, listen, I hope... My wish is that this thing leaves seasonally, that we get a reduction in the summer, and that we could really get back to business a little bit, and that there's no second peak, and we can track it when it does occur, and that we have some sort of good vaccine nearby. Okay, Oregon took a turn, you say. Let me see. Which direction did it go? Oregon. Whoops. Sorry. Let's see what Oregon's got. Yeah. No, I don't see any evidence of a turn here. Oregon looks really good. They were last... my thing is still frozen.
They've run out of old people.
No, the death rate is way down. Oregon looks good. Let's see. The hospitalizations predicted here are like 200, like a couple thousand. Oh, I see. Wait, no, a couple hundred. Let me see. Beds needed. 87. Only 87 beds needed. Let me see now.
Right, radio.
COVID tracking. Yeah, they're not giving any data, but this shows very few deaths on the COVID tracking project. So don't know the answer to that, what you're talking about in terms of turning. Yes, I interviewed the doctors from Bakerfield myself, and I talked about that. Dr. Erickson. Yeah, I talked to, yeah.
He was on Fox News 11 last night.
Yeah. And had an interesting conversation. I mean, I thought it was he held his own. He's using comparisons and things that really aren't accurate, but I get his point. I'm sympathetic to his point.
I think a lot of doctors feel that way.
Yeah, well, because we know how bad things can get, and we know this isn't as bad as some things could be, including H1N1, which was a lot worse than this. H1N1 killed 500,000 people. Infected 1 billion. Now, this one could have been worse than H1N1. That we don't know. So, all right. How long have we been going here?
43 minutes.
Okay. So we're about to wrap things up. Will we ever be back to normal? Yes, we'll be back to normal. This will pass. The question is it going to be in 6 months or 18 months? That's the big question. Yeah, but
will life be back to normal?
Well, we might have permanent changes, and there might be some permanent losses of businesses. That's going to be a problem.
And lives for other
Somebody's
reasons.
asking how to deal with the emotions associated with isolation, and we were talking about it earlier in this thing, which was have a routine, get some sunlight, exercise, make contact with people that you care about, and try to find something meaningful to do, whether that is being of service in some way, or whether it's taking on a project, something that gives you purpose. That will make a big difference in all this. I assure you. Even though they haven't called me in New York to come help them. Just signing up for it made me feel better, like I was
Yeah.
doing something purposeful.
They
So
may not need you. There may be people closer
yeah, that's true.
or younger.
So I'm trying to get a blood drive together here because we need blood products, so that's for sure. Okay, well, listen, let's kind of wrap things up. How it affects infants? No. Here's one thing about the coronavirus. It primarily affects adults, and it primarily goes bad in older adults. It rarely affects children. Two things. Rarely affects children. It can affect children. There have been some disastrous cases in children. It is exceedingly rare. For the most part, COVID does not affect children, as compared to influenza, which primarily transmitted by children and can kill children. So influenza, you could argue that influenza is worse because it kills kids and it's transmitted by kids. COVID is not that way. The stories that were flying around about 5 strokes, oh my God, young people are having strokes. Oh my God, young people are having strokes. 5 cases out of the million, 5 cases. You're more likely to and be careful. That's a very, very, very low risk of stroke, but doctors are aware of it. 5 cases reported in the New England Journal of Medicine. 5 cases in people with mild illness who late after the fact got stroke. There's an important piece of that story is they delayed coming to the hospital because they didn't know they had COVID and they were afraid of getting COVID. So hidden in that whole that article is don't delay going to the hospital if you have real medical symptoms.
Yes, don't.
You have chest pain, you have shortness of breath, you have neurological symptoms, go to the hospital. They can keep you safe from the COVID if it's not from COVID.
So somebody asked if avocado is a seed oil. And I want to show everybody the good fats, the okay but not great fats, and the bad fats chart from drkate.com.
Okay, what is it?
Well, avocado oil is good for you, so obviously avocado's okay.
Okay.
And olive oil's good, peanut oil, butter.
Peanut oil's okay?
Yes.
Oh, that's weird.
Tallow and lard. Cocoa butter, which would also be coconut oil, right?
Yes, coconut butter.
Coconut oil's down below. Macnut oil, almond oil, unrefined palm kernel oil.
That's all good?
There's a lot of palm oil in a lot of the snack foods too. If they don't have the other ones, that one's okay. Walnut oil, flax oil, sesame oil, walnuts, seeds, fatty fish, and artisanal grapeseed is good for you.
Okay.
The ones that you don't want, limited use, refined peanut, refined avocado, and refined coconut. So that's on the border if it's refined. Then the bad ones, soy, sunflower, safflower, canola, corn oil, cottonseed, hydrogenated oil, refined palm. Those are like in a lot of snack foods. And then fake whipped cream is bad, fake butter spreads, store-bought pastries, chicken nuggets, margarine, shortening, restaurant fried foods, most chips and crackers, most protein bars, most salad dressings, most mayo brands, and most granola cereal. So there you have it.
All righty. There's are the fats that you can use. And again, I will state again.
Take a screenshot of this on your phone.
Great. According to I do?
No, not you. The people that are watching.
According to Kate Shanahan, who's a famous biochemist and physician, a consultant to many NBA teams, several NBA teams, that these fats may have a significant role to play in the out-of-control inflammation associated with COVID. So when people get cytokine storm, she is of the opinion that low HDL, high triglycerides, seed oils, corn oil, canola oil may be one of the or maybe a significant contributing feature of this. So why not reduce your risk by using just the good fats, losing some weight, keeping limiting your in my opinion your carbohydrates, because that can help the HDL
ice cream.
That can help the HDL triglyceride issue, keep triglycerides down, HDL up.
I mean, there's got to be ice creams out there that don't have those oils in them,
Yeah, I don't know. You'll go on the search for it, though.
Yeah. Just read the back. I know. I never read the back of the food, but I am now.
Yeah, I think it's important, particularly people like me that have metabolic syndrome and are in a risk category. Fibromyalgia is not a risk. I'm not feeling anxious or depressed. Is that normal? Yeah, consider that. You're resilient. Good. Don't beat yourself up. Ways to raise insulin sensitivity: exercise, weight loss, limit carbs, or at least the carbohydrate profile of the carbs. That for sure.
I looked at gelato. It still had I think it had an oil in it.
How soon after a person gets sick from COVID would a cytokine storm happen? It's not immediate, but I've seen situations where it happens in a couple of days. And usually it can happen. It's the original reports were that it was happening later. They were seeing the pulmonary stuff first, and then after a week or two, they see these huge cytokine activations. The point is it can occur at any time. Those 5 cases of young people with strokes, presumption is that was a cytokine-related phenomenon because the clotting activation that's happening in COVID is related to antiphospholipid anticardiolipin, not activation of the clotting cascade, which is normally what happens with an infection. So you have two fundamental systems in your blood. One of the platelets that stick together, right, and form clots, and you have a clotting system, right? These proteins that help, cause clot. Have you ever heard of things like von Willebrand's disease or hemophilia, right? Hemophilia is a deficiency in a factor along that clotting cascade, so they don't clot normally in certain situations and they bleed more readily. Well, when people get sick, the clotting system can get activated in sepsis. That doesn't happen. It can happen in this illness because this illness can do everything, but it doesn't typically happen. What happens is an antibody develops to essentially the surface of cells and the lipids, and that becomes a procoagulant that tends to produce platelet aggregation and produce clot. I'm not too familiar with what the mechanism is, but it seems somewhat different from the usual activation we see in things like diffuse and disseminated coagulation with DIC, diffuse intravascular coagulation, which is what usually happens in sepsis. So, okay.
Okay.
All right. Aren't we glad we got into that?
Mm-hmm. It went right over my head.
Okay. How do I feel about doctors get removed from YouTube? I don't think that's right. I think I actually asked my producer at Fox 11 if I could talk to somebody at YouTube, because I'd like to know what their defense is for pulling somebody's opinion down. It's just the doctor having an opinion. Yeah. Now, they're going to say it's dangerous. It's like yelling fire in a crowded theater. Really? For them just to report some facts? That facts are become fearful of facts? That is a bad precedent. That is not a good thing. All right, let's wrap things up a little bit here. Thank you. I think we will be in again tomorrow around this time, right?
Yeah, yes. I saw one guy, he's a UPS driver, and he said everybody treats each other like zombies. Exactly my point. It's like we have to be able to at least show compassion for other people out in public. Looking away and hiding is like, or just not saying hello or thank you, or it's weird because we put these masks on and we all feel like we're ashamed or something. It's weird. We are in a stressful time, and normally people aggregate together in stress. We are recoiling from one another in these difficult times, which makes it extra super weird. And now we're afraid of each other, which is a very, very strange reality. I know, it's sad.
So we can congregate in these little electronic mediums that we have now, and we appreciate that. We appreciate you being here, and we'll have Duncan Trussell on Friday, but we'll have just a general follow-up again tomorrow. We'll see you then.